11 a.m. Tuesday on the West Coast, and that means it's time for another Damon Bruce show. Welcome to the Plus. It's the channel everyone is talking about here on YouTube. Well, I don't know. That's probably an exaggeration, but it feels good to be here. And needless to say, we got new bells and whistles.
I think I got my swagger back.
Yeah, so here we are, baby. We're getting better each and every day, and it is wonderful to have you here. I'm guessing the very fancy thumbnail that was created saying that we're going to talk about Kyle Shanahan might have been one of the reasons why you clicked here today, and believe me, we're going to get to it. But the biggest sports story of the day broke a couple of hours ago and is now developing, and boy, it is getting some attention, more attention than golf usually gets outside of its majors, to be totally honest with you. And if I can just stress something right at the top here, don't ever let a single sporting entity lecture you about morals, and stop looking to sports for patriotic lessons, because they just don't really live there beyond the hat and t-shirt that they're trying to sell you. Brooks Koepka, Dustin Johnson, they must be high-fiving themselves today, because the LIV Tour is going to be absorbed now by the PGA Tour. And I don't even know necessarily if I believe that. An unnamed PGA Tour player says, quote, "The LIV Tour was dead in the water. It wasn't working. And now you're throwing them a life jacket. Is the moral of the story to always just take the money?" Yeah, it seems to be that way. For a sport that, loves to sniff its own farts and tell you, well, the great thing about golf is we are our own officials. If someone wins a tournament and realizes that they were using illegal grips, they will disqualify themselves. That is how justly and moral everyone in golf is. Well, maybe not. Because the PGA isn't just throwing LIV a life jacket here. They just flipped them the keys to the Ferrari. I mean, think about it. In any partnership, the one with the most amount of money is the one in control. And no one's got more money than the Saudi backing that originally founded LIV in the first place. And remember how much just shaming the PGA Tour did on all the players who took that LIV deal and the LIV money. And they just went so far out of their way to character assassinate those players. And I'm not saying that that was even necessarily a wrong thing to do, but once you set up tent in that shop, you kind of have to stay there. So Tron Carter of No Laying Up says Jay Moynihan, who is the commissioner of the PGA Tour, is basically Tom Wamsgans from Succession. After all of his bluster and his 9/11 stuff, to sit there next to Yasir on CNBC trying to spin this as a victory for the tour, regardless of how much money is involved, instead of just resigning on the spot. This 4 p.m. players meeting is going to be Thunderdome. Another guy who is the editor, our content manager over at No Laying Up, named Kevin Van Valkenburg, said, look, I don't know how any player who turned down LIV money and stayed with the PGA could believe anything that Jay Moynihan ever says, Jay Monahan, ever says again. He made them take every arrow, hit in the office for a year, then double-cross them live on CNBC. Woo, it's getting spicy. Look, here's one thing I know, and I remember because I watched it as it happened. The PGA Tour ducked behind Gold Star families to shame LIV breakaway players. But the minute that opportunity was right for them, I guess it wasn't about 9/11 after all, or the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. No, that didn't matter at all once that money got right. Ross Tucker said, I can't believe a professional sports organization acted in its own best interest after asking its athletes to be loyal to them. There've got to be an awful lot of pissed off PGA Tour players. Now, Tiger Woods, who's not hurting for money in any way, there's no such thing as didn't need that $1 billion. Remember, Tiger Woods reportedly turned down about $1 billion from the LIV Tour only to see the tour that he shunned is now being absorbed by the tour that he defended. This feels like one of those lawyers are coming situations, that's for sure. Dave Zirin, who is Edge of Sports on Twitter, says, the PGA is what it's always been, a bunch of ham-faced, julep-drinking, amoral scoundrels. Oh, I love that sentence. Look, the very first thing that I thought of when I saw this is, Saudis are trying to use sports to sports wash the way that they conduct business over there. The very first thing that I thought of is there's obviously a dollar amount that will make any sport in America reconsider whatever morals it's trying to stand on. A smart Saudi who wants to have a footprint in the Bay Area right now buys the Oakland A's. Like, pick up the phone, call John Fisher, offer him double what the franchise is even worth, and believe me, Major League Baseball will approve that sale. Those greedy sons of bitches, I just know they will. And by the way, once the Saudis own a Major League franchise, it's only a matter of time until we're, talking about Commissioner Abdul Rahim Farouk Manesh, which, by the way, I just took all my favorite, names and just crushed them together right there. The one with the biggest pile of money is in charge in sports. That has been proven time and time and time again. I'm wondering, now that the PGA has officially taken the deal, how long it's going to be until other sports leagues say, well, good for the goose, good for the gander. Something else. It is wonderful to have you here today. I want to thank my sponsors, starting with, as always, Ike, who is first in the door. My man serves up delicious sandwiches all over the country, nearly 100 restaurants, a new one opening in Brentwood. I'll be there on June 15th for the opening ceremonies and party. I hope that you come on out and say hello to me and Ike. It's going to be a fun afternoon. Also, my man Charles over at Blackened Whiskey came right up in the early stages of Plushood here and said, I want to be involved. And I tell you, I'm thrilled to be involved with Blackened Whiskey. It is absolutely delicious. It is fantastic in a cocktail, on its own, on the rocks. If you're a fan of whiskey, pick up a bottle of Blackened at a Bevmo as soon as you can. Available in other places, but definitely all over Bevmo, and Bevmos are all over the place. So pick up a bottle of Blackened Whiskey the next time you're making a brown booze decision. You'll be happy that you did. And the next time you're thinking about picking up a cheeseburger, especially if you're in the inner Richmond, stop by my boys, Uncle Boys. It's a delicious burger by an awesome small family business here in San Francisco. I'm so proud to be partnered with Uncle Boys. Their story is amazing. The people who run Uncle Boys are just fantastic. These are true San Franciscans trying to start their own business. So go ahead and please support them. You'll be happy that you did. The burger is delicious. Try the onion rings. It's satisfaction the entire way around. You got to trust me on that. I know sandwiches, I know whiskey, I know burgers. I am thrilled to be endorsing and sponsored by all three, Ike's, Blackened, and Uncle Boys. Thank you all so very, very much. And thanks to you for being great patrons to my sponsors. That means an awful, awful lot. I know an awful lot of you clicked on today's show because of the very fancy thumbnail made by CEO, IT Department Creative Director, Mrs. Plus, Jillian, who did a hell of a job by putting together a nice 49ers helmet thumbnail for you to click on today. And I did want to talk about this constant need to try to explain to people what Kyle Shanahan has done wrong, what Kyle Shanahan is not as a head coach. There's a movement out there where trying to use multiple NFC title appearances is the reason why he's got to go, which to me is just ridiculous. Look, Kyle Shanahan, there's not a single team in football that has a perfect offensive afternoon every single game throughout a season. maybe the Kansas City Chiefs a couple of years ago came about as close to happening as it's been seen. But you know what Kyle Shanahan is also responsible for? The one thing that no one wants to bring up and talk about almost consistently is the fact that he is very much in charge of that defense, and as the general manager has loaded it to be one of the most year in, year out, season in, season out, week in, week out, consistent entities in the NFL. Kyle Shanahan is so much more than just the offense that you might be criticizing, the quarterback situation that seems to never find itself totally settled once and for all. And it really is like a bit much. His overall record means he's a winner. He's 52-46, which is, he's winning 53% of his games. If you subtract the first two seasons, and again, if you're going to sit around and criticize Kyle Shanahan for what you don't like, you must take in the full picture and agree that he was handed a big old cup of nothing as he walked in the door, right? That was an awful team. And within 2 seasons, he had basically flipped the entirety of the roster. So if you want to subtract the first 2 seasons from Kyle Shanahan's actual total, here's what he's been since subtracting the first 2 seasons. He's 42-24. That's winning 64% of your games. Folks, if you're winning 64% of your games in the NFL, you know what you're doing, and anyone trying to make the argument that you don't know what you're doing doesn't know what they're talking about. This is a guy who's been to a Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo. This is a guy who has been to the NFC title game with Mr. Irrelevant looking really good as his quarterback. This is a team that is in the NFC title game an awful lot. Over the last few years, they're in that game a lot. And again, some view that as a negative, because he hasn't won the big one. Think of all the coaches who aren't in the NFC title game a lot. If you don't like Shanahan, what must you think of them? Again, the team's defense is consistently one of the more ever-present wrecking shops in all of football. His head coaching tree, officially now, in a short amount of time, involves 3 NFL head coaches. We're talking about DeMeco Ryans, Mike McDaniel, and Robert Saleh. This is a guy who knows what he's doing. As I was talking last night on a Home and Home with Larry Krueger about the fact that Kyle's pretty good at what he does. You can't find a single former coach. You can't find a single former quarterback, whether they were a cup of coffee quarterback or a Hall of Fame quarterback. You can't find a current 49er. You can't find a no longer disgruntled former 49er who really has anything bad to say about working with Kyle Shanahan. This whole, he's the problem narrative is officially one of the dumber things going on around the NFL. It's ridiculous. Serving as this team's general manager, the roster is absurdly talented. And he's got a 3-man quarterback room right now, which consists of a real quick study who became instantly successful, a prospect in Trey Lance who remains a huge what if, and a veteran quarterback who is now in the first good situation in his career. Can we let some things play out before we declare anything necessarily alive or dead? Look, I am not criticizing Grant Cohn, who obviously is doing very well for himself in the space that I have moved into here on YouTube. He's got a massive audience, and I've always, no matter what I've said about Grant and the way he goes about framing his thoughts about the team, he takes his thoughts into that locker room. He faces the music. He is in front of the players. He is accountable. But what I don't understand is a tweet that he put out last night saying, you either got to give Trey Lance an opportunity to compete for the starting job or trade him. Stop holding that young man hostage. You're ruining his career. No. The 49ers are not ruining his career. The 49ers don't owe Trey Lance anything other than a direct deposit every 2 weeks, and he's got to make his own career happen in his own right. You know, if Kyle Shanahan could just snap his fingers and make anyone an awesome quarterback, believe it, he would have done it by now. Larry made a great observation saying that, first of all, look, there is a competition that's underway right now. So to say that to not let him compete for it feels a little odd. Or, as Larry stated, maybe the competition has been made and concluded, and Trey just isn't the winner. You know, that's a reality too. A lot of people who are very much in the camp of Trey Lance so want him to be the quarterback. Maybe he's not good enough to be the quarterback is something you're going to have to start factoring into these imaginary evaluations of what could be, what might be. It's kind of driving me nuts, and it's probably driving some of you a little nuts as well. Brock Purdy's not guaranteed to never make a mistake. Sam Darnold might be a guy that matters. Trey Lance someday may be a guy that matters. But this whole notion of you're holding this young man hostage, he's under contract. The 49ers have zero responsibility to a player that outranks their responsibility to do the best job for the team. And if sacrificing the dawn of a young player's career, yet retaining him on the roster as a backup is the right thing for the team, that's called professional sports. That's what that is. Everyone needs to stop clutching their pearls and worrying about Trey Lance's future. Let the present play itself out. We are still so many weeks, months, days away from the start of football season, trying to look at something that's happening at mandatory OTAs on June 6th and using that as the, well, here it is, we now know what we need to know, is ridiculous. We have to go through this every offseason and explain that, hey, OTAs are a little bit interesting, but trying to use them to frame the entirety of everything we're about to see in a season is nuts. So one thing we are here on the Plus is a little less nuts, which is maybe why you keep on coming back. Maybe why you're finding me today and deciding, hey, this guy, for a world of just, inflammatory nonsense, here's someone who's actually thinking about things and approaching things like an adult. Nothing is black and white. There's an awful lot of gray out there. And it feels like the best way to get clicks is to pretend that nuance doesn't even exist. We do nuance here on the Damon Bruce Show. That's what we're trying to accomplish. Instead of just taking a position, holding it, we're trying to look at things from every conceivable angle. Not just the, here's what I want the quarterback situation to be, so I'm going to try to speak it into existence. And there's not a single person in the media speaking who knows more about that quarterback situation than Kyle Shanahan. And look, as my friend Larry Krueger did indeed point out on last night's Home and Home, this team right now is stockpiling quarterbacks. They have added more quarterbacks to the mix in just the last couple of days, which means Trey Lance might not be long for this roster. You know what the Niners owe it to themselves to do is to have Trey Lance on this roster, possibly wait for the preseason quarterbacking injury that always happens, and then trade him, or Sam Darnold, or whomever. Brock Purdy's the safe one. I think we know that. But man, just the constant hand-wringing over a situation that is fluid is kind of nuts. It really is just a little nuts, if you don't mind me saying. Oy, oy, oy! There you go. Best way to emphasize what I'm saying is with a oy, oy, oy! Hell yeah. So, look, another story that has come out today that has kind of been buried by the live news, and I don't know how big of a story this might be, and I don't know how much credence to really give this because, there are, for a lack of a better phrase, new ways to football fail all the time. New ways to football have included the USFL, like 2-3 versions of the XFL, the AFL, like you get the drift. There have been an awful lot of other football leagues, the Arena Football League that just, can't maintain interest, profitability, or last beyond 2 or 3 seasons. Well, a story today reported by the AP is that high school football is about to be disrupted by a new nationwide league of high school football teams, or they wouldn't be necessarily high school teams, but they would be teams that are made up of football players still young enough to be in high school. And again, this is either going to become something big or it won't, because new ways to football fail all the time. The former president of the latest version of the United States Football League, the USFL, is launching a spring football league for high school football players. Brian Woods, who stepped down as the USFL's president at the end of last year, said his Prep Super League will begin next year with a 6-week season. Woods said that this league will use NCAA playing rules and will operate independent of high school state athletic associations, therefore giving players the chance to profit off their name, image, and likeness without any restrictions. It feels like there's just a new entity forming to take advantage of free football labor. If this is really a league that wants to be a breakaway league, pay your players. Don't let some NIL bullshit that some kid has to be the caretaker of that is probably going to get screwed over more often than actually paid. Like, if you want to form your own league of 15, 16-year-old kids, pay them. Now, if you're a 15, 16-year-old kid, I'm not here to tell you what your family situation is, but a lot of kids will be taking a money grab just because they need to. And I don't know if this is necessarily going to be good for anyone involved. If you do this, do you then lose eligibility to play a normal high school season? Is this just another way to do kind of year-round football? I don't know. But this is more than just a national story, because league officials intend to have the season running from April 19th through May 24th, with teams located in Atlanta, Cleveland, Dallas, Houston, New Jersey, New Orleans, LA, Miami, Tampa Bay, Phoenix, San Diego, and San Francisco. So this could be coming to San Francisco? Okay. Interesting. Woods says that he hopes to start hiring coaches in the next 2 to 3 months. I don't know what to make of it. I don't have enough information. I haven't seen anything other than this AP story announcing that this was going to happen. I've been thinking so much about this live tour thing that when I saw this, I was like, oh, shit, that feels like a big story too. Or maybe it's not. I don't know. But we'll see. That is a huge we'll see, right? We'll see what you are chatting about over here in the Plus. I know an awful lot of you were in earlier this morning saying hello to each other. I love that we got a little community that's forming. People will actually log in to the chat room early to apologize to everyone in the chat that they've got a meeting that they have to be at and can't be here to watch it live. Look, that's okay. That's the beauty of YouTube. You watch this when it fits into your day. You don't have to rearrange your day to fit into this. Not at all. Not at all. That's the beauty of hashtag new media that Draymond has won. Don't really want to talk deeply about baseball, whether it be Giants or A's baseball today, but are the Giants going to be in position to be buyers or sellers at the deadline? What are they going to do? Or will they sort of poo-poo platter it and do a little bit of both? Selling off assets that they think that they can sort of make up for in the aggregate that won't necessarily be back next year, that won't return any draft pick if they leave as a free agent next year. So moving on right now might be the thing to do. You know, Alex Cobb, who is having a very good year on the mound. How much longer are you going to bet on that just being this year's Alex Cobb? He could get hurt at any moment. I mean, we all could, but he's got a history of getting hurt. He is 36 years old. Will he stay healthy? What can you get for him in an awesome season? Would you then turn around and call up, Kyle Harrison? This is, I think, one of the first names in the, if you are selling off assets, who would be valuable around baseball. Jacques Peterson is about to come back from a hand injury. We know he's hot or cold. We know that he's got an awful lot of postseason success under his belt. Maybe a contender looks at him and thinks, well, there's a player we'd like to add. And all of a sudden, if the Giants remove him, they can get more at-bats for younger players in their system where Jock Peterson might have been taking him away. When I start thinking about, well, who do you go after? You go after teams whose seasons are kind of going belly up. Well, there is no bigger belly up season in North American sports than the Oakland A's right now. Is there an Oakland A who could help the Giants? Look at it this way. If I were the Giants, I would be inquiring about catcher Carlos Perez. What do the A's need a 32-year-old catcher who's having a decent season for? What do they need him for? They don't need him for anything. He's not involved in any future plans. He hasn't sold a ticket. You're not even trying to sell tickets. He's not a part of a winning anything. The battery that he's involved with, the A's pitchers are getting the crap beat out of him. You don't need him. But if the Giants could use him, all of a sudden, Blake Sable isn't your backup catcher. You can put him in the outfield. You can maybe get him some reps over at first base. So this is checkers. Excuse me, no. This is chess, not checkers. A lot of people who say that, like, this is chess, not checkers, don't even know how to play chess. I know the moves in chess, but I'm not a good chess player. What about a guy like Brent Rooker? Now, 9 of his 11 home runs came in the month of April. He runs really hot or cold, but poor man's Joey Gallo, maybe he could be an option for the Giants. The A's don't need him. Maybe Seth Brown. What's the point of carrying a 31-year-old Seth Brown on your roster if you're the A's? I mean, what's the point of keeping anybody? There's not a single player on the A's who shouldn't be available in some conceivable way to a team that might be interested. And look, if there were to be a losing streak that took the Giants from, hey, we might be something, right into the category of, nah, you're not going to be anything. You're not going to catch the Dodgers, the Padres, and you've probably been lapped by the Arizona Diamondbacks at this point. If you do fancy yourself a seller, like by definition, as far as I'm concerned, you don't need an all-world closer. Now, Camilo Duvall is the man, and he's still got tons of club control. But if you're rebuilding, you don't need a closer. That's like the cherry on top of the rebuilt sundae. Think of what you could get for him. I mean, I brought that up to Larry, and he was just like, no, they're not moving off of him. I get it. Like, they wouldn't want to do it, but he could fetch a huge return. J.D. Davis could maybe fetch a huge return. Bring VR up. Have Schmidt play over at third. Just thinking. Just options. One more note. again, John Fisher should be calling Saudi Arabia and be like, who wants to overpay for a baseball team and keep them in Oakland? But he wouldn't do that because John Fisher hates us all and he doesn't care about anything and he doesn't know how to pick up a phone call and actually talk to anybody. And the man is without skill, diplomacy, or know-how in every conceivable way. Welcome to your annual Fuck John Fisher segment, your near daily segment. But this one is kind of interesting because, again, we're keeping receipts, right? Tim Kawakami pointed out that just in the last 5 weeks alone, the A's have changed Las Vegas sites. They've lowered their request for public money, and they've not gotten a legislature vote before the end of the session. And then sarcastically, he writes, boy, John Fisher just keeps on winning, doesn't he? No wonder Rob Manfred blames Oakland and only Oakland. Now, all sarcasm aside, Tim's making a very good point. As we have pointed out countless times, John Fisher has no juice, no allies, no real business sense, no touch. He has an office full of stadium plans that were supposed to happen but never did. I mean, think about it. Just go back to remember there was supposed to be a stadium in Fremont. That never happened. Then there was supposed to maybe be a stadium in San Jose. I think they even decided that was going to be called Cisco Field, or maybe that was the one in Fremont. I can't even remember. But that never happened. And then the big announcement, the one that finally was going to end the debate once and for all, was that they were moving, right to downtown Oakland. Laney College is where the Oakland A's would be building their stadium. I mean, they rolled out a big press event for that one. Well, that didn't happen. And then speaking of big press events and fancy art renderings of stadiums and glass cities around stadiums, we, get to Howard Terminal eventually. Amazing plans. Would have been awesome. Didn't happen. And so now where are you? Now you're at your second Las Vegas location with none of the machinations you really need from the local government spinning in the direction that John Fisher needs them to spin in. I mean, would you want to bet on John Fisher and Dave Cavill getting this done? I wouldn't. I wouldn't bet a dime on these guys. Wouldn't bet a dime. The two of them have so thoroughly proven themselves to be incompetent and incapable that it's extraordinary. What the hell are we talking about? I'm going to leave you with this before we enter a little Club Plus. Here on the podcast, I want to invite you to join me and apparently thousands of other A's fans. The Damon Bruce Show, the Mighty Plus, is officially joining the reverse boycott on June 13th. That game is between the A's and Rays. The Sell shirts, which are being printed by fans and given out to fans like it's a stadium giveaway. This has got to be the first time in baseball history fans decided on a stadium giveaway. They're printing out green Sell t-shirts, and what it'll really do, again, how do you shame the shameless? I don't know, but it seems like a night A's fans deserve to come together publicly disapproving in vast numbers what has been done to them by the worst owner in the history of sports, having the most disgraceful season, maybe in the history of North American professional sports. The Sell shirts are going to be handed out in B lot by the Light Towers. Last Dive Bar is coordinating this. I've already been in touch with the guy who is the leader of that, Brian, and I'm going to be out with him on Tuesday. We're going to be covering this, and based on the amount of coverage, we'll be broadcasting live from the bleachers that night, covering this event to the best of our ability, to the best of cell phone coverage that it will allow this to happen or not. So look, We got quite a bit. I mean, how can I miss these gems when I have Otis Bird III saying this golf thing is like when Tupac teamed up with Biggie in the heat of the East Coast, West Coast rap beef. Yeah, it would have been like that, I guess. Jeez. It's kind of nuts. Kind of nuts. So to get to more of that, we're going to move into Club Plus. You're invited to stick around right here on YouTube. If that's for you, if you're listening on the podcast, thank you so much for doing that. Appreciate you tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow right at 11 with more. In the meantime, I want you to remember, PGA, I guess I'm talking to you today, that sports don't build character, but they reveal it. And like that, he's gone. All right, let's get funky. Let's get. Watch how tan I'm about to get. Ready? Is that tan? Really? No? Here, wait. There we go. Oh, and then I got to kill this light, and now all of a sudden it's disco, baby. Disco party. I like it. Welcome. Welcome to Club Plus. True Blue Forever goes, you're immoral, you're evil. Oh, you got money? Let's be friends. Yeah, that's basically what the PGA Tour did today. I mean, this is just the PGA Tour leaving their players who were against this just out to dry. I mean, everyone who took the money gets to keep the money. They prevented so many guys from keeping money. This happened. Again, there will be Thunderdome today in this players' meeting. Sporticus, where is he? There he is. Sporticus says players are separate from the organization. Always remember that. No, indeed, this is happening. This is happening way over the heads of a lot of people with boots on the ground who, were taking a stand instead of taking money, only to realize that the organization that they were taking a mighty stand for caved and took the money. What the hell? Well, I'm a little too dark maybe here. Let me make these sexy. No? Does that not work? Yeah, maybe a little bit better. Yeah, by the way, I did get the name of the name of the PGA Tour committee is not Moynihan, it is Monahan. True Brew Forever says, wasn't Moynihan on Saturday Night Live? I think there was. It's amazing. So the live dudes get to keep their millions and come back and play? Yeah, I think so. Look, at what point does every single major sport in America drop this whole, well, we wouldn't let owners like that take over in our league and start saying yes to these dollars, which, Middle East oil dollars go to infinity. They really do. They go to infinity. Mitch says the PGA commish should be fired immediately. What a shitty move. That live thing couldn't get ratings and was stuck on the CW. Yeah, it seemed like they were about to squash live, but obviously the numbers and the messages were really simple. There's no such thing as enough money to make this go away. Hi, Jillian. Too dark. Jillian says, I'm a little too dark. See, yeah, I guess that's better. That's better. Ladies and gentlemen, the CEO with the most right here. Duck in, honey. Say hello to everyone.
Hi, everybody.
How are you? Are you ready to take that live tour money and leave me at any time soon here?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how well this does.
It's a very good point. Very good point. The CEO of the Plus, ladies and gentlemen.
The Plusio.
And the Plusio, Susu Studio. And you know what I get to do to the CEO? I show her my CEO face. Oh.
Stop.
Way to sleep your way to the middle, honey. Oh, man. T from the 203 says, hey, wait a minute. Can we just throw him like $5 billion? Is there any doubt in anyone's mind that the highest price bidder would win? '82 Atlantic says, it's perfect, Damon. Sports don't build character. They reveal it. It really does. You know, money always wins. Money. How about this? The Saudis. Rockin' New Era 84. Look, I mean, this whole thing about blood money for all, like, we know what the Saudis have done historically. We know. We've seen it. But there are so many elements of business that are taking dollars that come from that region that to just accuse the live players of being the ones who took the deal is farcical. It's farcical. Like every single time you see a Chevron commercial, every single time you see a BP commercial, every single time you see, something about oil or Pennzoil. I mean, everyone has got their hand in the pocket of big oil. You know, when do you stop saying, well, it's bad for them, it's good for them over there? It's just, it's nuts. And, you know, for the whole point to be, as Ross Tucker pointed out, you know, an organization will act in its own best interest, leave its workers to take all the heat, slings, arrows, and bullets. But when the money is right for them to say, all right, we'll take the deal too, they'll do it. They will do it. The question from Ernie is, are we getting a live show from Ike's? Here's the thing. We're lucky to just be doing it correctly from here. We need a little bit more seasoning and know-how before we start taking this sucker out on the road. So, no, we're not going to be doing a show from Ike's, but we're certainly going to be hanging out and talking with people and hanging out and maybe recording some stuff. I hope Larry makes it to Ike's on June 15th. I do, too. I bet he will. This is a 5-spot from Kevin Wood saying that Shanny hate from folks like Grant is a strategy. For some reason, YouTube pushes shiny negative content that pushes personal grievances. Well, maybe that's part of his success story then. And look, I'm not saying Grant is bad at his job, but to just take this whole thing like, oh, this is what the 49ers owe Trey Lance. The 49ers don't owe Trey Lance anything but a paycheck. You know, this isn't high school football. This isn't everybody gets an orange slice at halftime and is treated the same. This is professional sports. And the proof is in the pudding. Oh, look, before she made an in-person appearance, we had Mrs. Plus saying, smash that like button. Thank you very much. Again, Jillian is just crushing the absolute technology and bells and whistles that we now have here.
Great job, honey. Oh, you've done a great job. Let me tell you, I just want to sit on a beach and drink with you. And oh, we will party someday when we officially make the first million. Yeah, do I sound a little high? I probably do.
So look, I love the new bells and whistles. Having fun. But you can't just go ahead and, lean on all the bells and whistles. What I love is I'm seeing more names in here, new names across the chat room. Thank you very much for coming to check it out. Really appreciate it. The Sporticus says, Damon, do you think that being GM and head coach is a contributing factor to Kyle not winning the big one? There are focused benefits to delegation when done correctly. I think so. Maybe there is. But I honestly, I don't see a team that is ill-prepared to win. I see a team that has come very close to winning big games, yet hasn't. Not because they were ill-prepared, not because they were unfocused, or the coach's attention was on something else. Football teams get beat. Good football teams get beat. To try to use one game as a referendum, or just a handful of games as a referendum on what a coach is or isn't, is nuts. Any given Sunday applies to the postseason as well. It really does. There is no birthright to getting it done. There is no birthright to, you're back in the Super Bowl every single year, congratulations. That just does not exist. Mr. Bridge says, and I don't know if this is sarcasm or not, but Sporticus, he's not the GM. Come on. Oh, no. Kyle Shanahan is very much the GM. I'm not saying that John Lynch is just a ceremonial figurehead. He is involved. He gathers and distributes information, and I think has an opinion that Kyle leans on heavily. But Kyle Shanahan makes every single decision that affects the 49ers roster. Never forget that. Never, ever forget that. Never forget that the postman in Capitola is one of those original plusers. Good to the sponsors, good to the host, little jingle jangle, here to ride or die with Kyle Shanahan. And that is the whole point. If you are a 49er fan and you subscribe to anything other than I ride with Kyle, boy, are you going to be disappointed, because that guy's not going anywhere anytime soon. I think he's going to win a championship here. I really do. Will it be this year? I don't know. This ain't his last year. Adrian says, I'm just here for fuck John Fisher chance and the hot takes. Well, we're happy to do that. We're very, very happy to do that. UC Steve says, who exactly is watching the XFL or USFL? Nobody. But, those adults who are signing up to do that are very much taking their football futures into their own hands for hopefully their own good. I don't know how many players would report that they were being taken advantage of. I just know that if there is some secondary off-brand high school football league, eventually there will be people taking advantage of players there the same way that college takes advantage of players. There will always be someone lining up to take advantage of the kids involved in sports. Always. And whether it be done in the, guise of, well, I really, really care, or I'm just trying to get you paid. Remember, there's always a self-serving motivation going on there. Always. There is no Mother Teresa of, I just love kids' sports. If there is dollars involved. If you just love kids' sports, you're topping out at Pop Warner. Sarah basically says, so it's an AAU for youth football? La Profesora? Yeah. That's kind of what it sort of looks like it's going to try to be. Never forget the Alliance of American Football. Oh, yes, the AAF. Who could ever forget? Again, there have been an awful lot of different ways to football that have never, ever really turned into anything. And I've even given these things a shot. Like, I've tried to watch. I'm a football enough fan. Like, I remember going to arena football games and just saying, like, man, if they can't even interest me for a set of downs, this just doesn't stand a chance, because I'm like that, likely to maybe pay attention to this if it's interesting. And I never, ever got why there was an appeal there, or how people were buying tickets to come and watch this, or investing gobs of money or time in that product. College football, the NFL, That's all we really care about. Nothing has ever been able to infiltrate that. Now, nothing has ever been tried at the high school level. High school level football is a big deal, especially in some specific states, some cities. But to work as a nationwide AAU level, let me ask, is there going to be a team from Tampa coming to San Francisco to play a team in San Francisco who is paying for all of those kids to travel, all of that equipment to come to the West Coast, having a field that is ready to go, having all the medical attention you need standing by for every single football game? You know, that's not a school district paying for that. Who's paying for that? How much money would a new high school football circuit need to make to actually do it the correct or right way where someone doesn't get totally screwed over? Again, this is a story that broke today. Maybe some elements of it will be illuminated at some point, but I just can't see it. And Trevor Quinn, Trevor, I do not recognize your name. If you're new here, thank you very, very much. Says, not a snowball's chance in hell this happens in San Francisco, let alone in California. That's sort of what I thought about it too. But who knows? I don't know enough about it to think really one way or the other about it, other than just give everyone the advice, approach and proceed with skepticism and caution. That would be the way I went about it.
I've seen some real bullshit before in my time. This could be another huge scoop of bullshit.
Thank you. All right. What are we looking at now? Oh, look at my friend Vasu. How are you, Vasu? It's good to see you. Damon, live is best. Instant feedback. Great job. Thinking Miami ends up winning this series. When does the NBA Finals continue? It's tomorrow, right? We got to wait till Wednesday to get to Game 3. Good Lord, do I have that wrong? Is it tonight? Hold on, let me check. I can't even remember. I think I wrote this down somewhere. I usually do. Yeah, here it is, right here. Heat Nuggets, Game 3, tomorrow. We got to wait another day? Jeez. It's ridiculous. Want to make me look ridiculous? Vasu, thank you very much for checking in. And I don't think Miami ends up winning this series. I got Nuggets in 5, and there's no reason for me to come off of that until that's no longer available. So, from Mitch, he says, is there an Oakland A that can help the Giants? I don't know. Do they need a ticket taker or someone to sell hot dogs? One of the things that Larry and I did get to last night was how ridiculous are the ushers in Oakland who are actually checking tickets. Like, I'm going to tell you right now, you'd need a SWAT team to get me to move out of my seat in a stadium that had 55,000 empty seats. Like, I'm going to walk in there and I'm going to sit wherever I want. And I'm not going to let some usher be like, well, you can't sit here. Be like, sweetheart, John Fisher doesn't even give a fuck about this. Why should you? And yes, I would call a man a sweetheart in that situation too. I agree with you here, J49. Sable can hit a little bit. You can see that they believe him hitting a little bit. Look where they got him in the lineup. They got him like hitting 3, 4, 5 in the lineup. He can hit a little bit. So I think you take a lot off his plate, stop asking him to catch where he's not particularly good at it, put him in the outfield, maybe get him grounders over at first base. Maybe he can spell Lamont Wade over there a little bit, but I like Blake Sable, the hitter. Blake Sable, the catcher, nah. Scrolling, looking. Yeah. Doval is filthy. Love his stuff. Tommy, I do too. All I can tell you is that there might be, at the end of the year, well, not by the trade deadline anyways, a team that would be willing to give you an awful lot for one of the best closers in baseball? And do you need one of the best closers in baseball when you have so many other things to address? Now, you got a pitcher that talented under so much more club control. Of course, there are reasons to hold on to him. But what could the return be? I mean, you got to ask those questions. If you're Farhan, you got to do your, say it with me, due diligence.
You gotta do your due diligence. Gotta get that done.
I'm not going to lie. I love this thing. I really do. Speaking of due diligence.
Oy, oy, oy!
Yeah, baby. Still talk and chatter about what Liv decided to do, what the PGA Tour decided to do by bringing, something that they said, look, these are bad people. You don't want to be associated with bad people. Apparently, until those checks start clearing in your bank account. How much was the PGA commish paid off? What's his bank account? Can we get a little forensic accounting on that man's bank account? What did he take to get this through, to get this done, to push this through without even getting the members of the PGA Tour to... Half the people on the PGA Tour found out about this on Twitter this morning. Now, I wonder, if some of the bigger critics, I think Rory McIlroy, when I think of PGA player, tour professional that was been an outspoken critic of Liv, Rory's been kind of silent on this. Maybe he knew it was coming. Maybe the higher-ups, the muckety-mucks, those who've got the price of admission to sit at a table that decisions actually happen, maybe they were told, hey, stop talking and using those talking points about morality because we're about to just flush that right down the drain. Interesting stuff, as always. Thank you, Otis Bird. No, thank you, good friend. Thank you. Michelle Haberman, Damon, love when you bust open the Club Plus doors. We're busting them open today. We bust them open every day. Well, Monday through Friday anyways. Question from Mitch, kind of out of nowhere here. Damon, any thoughts about Phil Knight trying to buy the Portland Trailblazers, but Paul Allen's sister's not returning his calls saying none of my brother's teams are for sale? That's her right. That's her right. She doesn't want... Here's the thing. You can't force someone to sell. And how do you out-cash someone in the Allen family? How are you going to cash out someone who's got money that goes to heaven? So... yeah, it's just, you can't buy something that's not for sale. Oh, what's this saying? Rock and New Era, all that's missing is the deep voice to keep identity in the darkness. Oh, look, we got that. We've officially got that.
Yeah, here I am in the witness protection program. This is where you just see my silhouette. I love the soundboard, I really do. I really do. And when I want to
swear, when I really just want to go ahead and just swear at John Fisher and make it so aggressive that no one needs to hear this tirade, when I just say, you know what, that guy can go and let me tell you about his mother and father, they can go. Did that work? Did that get censored? The Shaw. Too dark, Damon. Well, that's why we had Mrs. Plus run in here and fix everything. Like, if Miss Plus ain't going to fix it, no one is. UC Steve. So, CW is asking for the Masters next year. Can you imagine? Hi. Hello, friends. Jim Nance here with a tradition unlike any other. And coming up next, a rerun of Family Matters. Whatever the hell's on the CW. Coming up next, One Tree Hill. Erwin, thank you very, very much. Great home and home with Krug last night. We had some audio issues. We tried to get through them. Yeah, I don't even know if we succeeded in that, but we're going to keep on trying to get it better and better and better. Kathy says, Damon, did you hear that the last dive bar purchased billboards in Las Vegas with no Nevada money on it? That's great. That's great. Look, the A's, if you left it up to a public vote, would get demolished. The only thing that might bring the A's truly to Las Vegas is the fact that politicians probably are getting greased and they want to say that they were involved in a big decision, and there is probably a politician who is ready to totally fuck over the city of Las Vegas by getting into bed with the worst, most detestable owner in the history of sports. And that is who John Fisher is. Indeed. Jillian making sure Damon's only holding the blackened sign today instead of drinking from the bottle. The radio basement, my brother for life, and this is, is it DJ E-Rock? E-Rock, what's going on, man, if that's really you? Hell of a guy, hell of a DJ, hell of a talent. That's my man right there. What else we got going on in the Club Plus today? What else we got going on? There's always a little something interesting that happens at the very end. Damon, we want rollerball. Trevor, rollerball? I mean, isn't San Francisco one of the what's roller skating? What do they call the the fat chicks who roll? Is it roller derby? Roller derby. The Bay Area Bombers, was that the name? I don't think we need rollerball. Hey, Damon, way to look official. Thank you very much. Vegas. Oh, this is E-Rock. Vegas Golden Knights or Florida Panthers? Dude, you got to. The Panthers look like they're in a lot of trouble all of a sudden, don't they? Here's what stinks. You know, I wait around kind of like till the Stanley Cup Finals to pick up hockey unless the Blackhawks or the Sharks or a team that I really am going to care about are involved here. And I'm putting on, you know, last night's game, and that thing is over like midway through the first period. The Knights are just blitzing the Florida Panthers, so I'm sure we're very excited to be in the Stanley Cup Finals until they actually got there. Golden State Lakota, you know it. Look ridiculous. Yeah, that's Walt, baby. Walt's Pictures. A man in my position can't afford to be made to look ridiculous. And then you get a horse head in your bed. There is no doubt about this. Mitchell and Ness saying, man, you internet trolls are just sad kind of people. Yeah, they are. But that's, look, I kind of feel bad for them because the only way they feel like they can participate in a conversation is if they're hiding behind a keyboard, which means you ain't even participating in the conversation. Not really. There are a lot of people who picked up an Athlon's magazine and think that they're Mel Kiper. There are a lot of people who have seen like all 22 film and think that they now know enough to break it down. There are so many unqualified people in the media. And look, YouTube is a space that gives voice to unqualified. That's why you got to click carefully. Got to click carefully. And that's hopefully why real pros who've been covering football for decades, like me, like Larry Krueger, are going to stand out. And look, I used to be anti-Grant Cohn. I'm not anti-Grant, but he does it in a way that is different than how I do it. That's for sure. Like, I don't attach any sense of anger to what the Niners are doing. I'm not begging them to make a move because I think it's the right thing to do. What the fuck do I know? Certainly not as much about the 49ers as the head coach and GM of the 49ers. You know, how much practice do you get to watch And then how much practice that happens that you do not have your eyes on, and which practice do you think matters more in the evaluation process? The real practices that the media is not allowed to see or report on, or the ones that are basically guys throwing against air in their underwear? To try to evaluate any football that is happening in underwear and use that as the, well, now I know what to report, and this is definitely what's about to happen, is kind of nuts. It is really kind of nuts. The Shaw giving a little love to Jillian. Thank you very much, Shaw. She certainly earned a
Oy, oy, oy.
today, tomorrow, and forever. Irwin. Don't need to get Jillian in here with her hammer. She has enough on her plate. She's already dealing with Damon. No, it's a lot. It's a lot. No doubt. Let's see. What do we got? What do we got? Oh, Sporticus. Duvall to the Mets. Young power hitting righty. Mark Ventos. They've needed for years. It's a win-win. Hey, pick up the phone and call. Let's talk. Pick up the phone and call. Let's talk. And again, we did discover it is you. Hey, E-Rock, when am I going to be on your podcast, man? When am I going to join you? When am I going to come on your show? You and Box Kev, you flirted. We were supposed to do something that never happened. I think Box Kev is somewhere right now, like in some gorgeous European vacation, enjoying himself to a degree that we don't know. Good for him. Here's some hard truth that no one around here probably even wants to hear. The 49ers haven't won a Super Bowl in 30 years. Stop acting like it's Super Bowl or bust. I hear you, but I tell you, they're knocking on that door right now. They are one of the favorites to win the Super Bowl again this year. They have been one of the favorites to win the Super Bowl for like the last 4 or 5 years. Because they haven't is not proof of failure. Because they haven't is just proof on how fucking hard all this is in the first place. There is no such thing as an easy football game to win, not even against a team that is 0-10. That's going to be a tough afternoon too. Remember, the gap between the best baseball team and the worst baseball team is this. The gap between the best NBA team and the worst NBA team is this. The gap between the best football team, NFL team, and the worst football team is this. It's super tiny. There's talent everywhere in this league. Mitch, you got it right. Roller derby. Roller derby at the Coliseum. Yeah, go ahead, set it up. Put up the track. We'll go over there and hang out. Oh, Mr. Bridge says, Damon, thank you for the Sharks love. Who brings you more Sharks love than me?
Done scoring.
We got that one too.
Done scoring.
He's no longer a Shark, but it doesn't matter.
Done scoring.
That might as well be the Sharks' national anthem right there.
Done scoring.
You want to go ahead and retire a number? Make sure it's the number of
Done scoring.
one of the 5 most important players in NHL history.
Done scoring.
That's my guy. What do we got here? What else do we have here? Damon from Adrian, can you repeat that reverse boycott for the Into the A's fans are hosting once more? Yes, the reverse boycott is happening. Let me scroll down here because I wrote it all down. That is, the reverse boycott is being, I believe, thrown by the guys who were part of the last dive bar. The guy who I've been in touch with on Twitter, his name is Brian, and I don't know if he's the only last dive bar guy who owns that, runs that or not, but the guy I'm talking to, his name is Brian. The shirts will be handed out starting around 4:30 in the afternoon. As soon as the lots open, the Sell T-shirts are going to be handed out in B lot by the Light Towers, and it's happening on June 13th in a game against the Tampa Bay Rays. Luke is saying all the hits are back. Oh, absolutely they are. All the hits are back.
I gotta say, I'm just fired up to be here today.
Me too.
Pound it, pound it, pound it, pound it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Good times. Good times. And again, with my soundboard, it's official.
I think I got my swagger back.
Boys and girls, thank you so much for coming by today. It was wonderful having you here today. It's wonderful having you here every day. YouTube is probably the best place in all of media to build a little community. We've officially started doing that. The little community that is the Plusdom is underway, and it wouldn't be without your loyalty, without your viewership, not just to me, but your loyalty to my sponsors as well, who help foot the bill so I can do goofy things like
Name that fish.
let's just go with flounder this time around, shall we? Thank you so much. Go ahead and give some love to my boy Ikes. Pick yourself up a bottle of Blackened, and the next time you're in the Inner Rich, get a burger to go at Uncle Boy's. You'll be happy that you did. They're delicious. I like the cowboy burger. It's got a little spice to it. It's yummy. I like it. I like a place that says, hey, this is going to be a little bit spicy. It's got some good zing to it. Really good zing to it. I thought today's show had some good zing to it. Thanks to all of you. And I'm just going to wrap up with this one. Nathaniel saying, thank you, Damon. You make my workday much more enjoyable. Well, that means an awful lot. Thank you so very much to you, Nathaniel. Thanks to the rest of you as well. And I'm going to tell you right now, this is the end of today's version of Club Plus. We have to bring the red rope back across the entrance. That means the club is closed, and you don't have to go home. You just can't stay here.